The checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
As of December 24, almost 2,450,000 COVID-19 jobs were administered, according to the National Center for Disease Control. More than 1,270,000 citizens, or 44.2% of the population aged 18 and above, are vaccinated with at least one dose. In addition, 1,111,000 people have been fully vaccinated, which is 38.7% of the population. According to NCDC, booster doses were currently administered to more than 58,000 people. At the moment, vaccination in Georgia is carried out with 3 vaccines: Pfizer, Sinopharm, and Sinovac.
Parliament Speaker Kakha Kuchava is resigning. Irakli Kobakhidze, the chairman of the Georgian Dream, made a statement about it. Shalva Papuashvili will replace Kuchava as the Speaker of the Parliament. Kakha Kuchava will be also leaving Parliament as a member and will remain in the political council of the Georgian Dream political party.
The Parliament of Georgia adopted the legal package on the gambling and prize-winning games with the third reading. The bill is entailed with the public interest in a gambling sphere and envisages the increase of the age limit for the gambling to 25 and establishment of the list of the banned and compulsive gamblers, as well as prohibition of the public servants and socially vulnerable persons from gambling.
Holidays have been imposed at public institutions in the period of January 1 to 10, 2022. This decision was made by the Interagency Coordination Council to reduce the mobility of people amidst increased threats of Omicron fast spreading. Similar recommendations have been issued by the Council to the private sector after the meeting led by Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia. Holidays are set for schools as well from December 29 to January 17, 2022.
This is the checkpoint presented to you by Elena Kvanchilashvili and myself, David Jalagonia. We are here to tell you about business and economics.
Yes, 10 p.m. sharp, and we will start with the IMF's proposition for the government of Georgia on much-awaited and long-discussed SOE reform. According to the International Monetary Fund, state-owned enterprises are a key part of Georgia's economy, accounting for a significant portion of GDP, employment, and public investment. They deliver critical services in important economic sectors, including gas, electricity, water, and transportation. Improving their performance is a critical step in the path to becoming a high-income country, IMF says.
Since 2012, the authorities have been taking concrete steps to address challenges arising from the state-owned enterprises sector. Substantial progress has been achieved in disclosing fiscal risks arising from SOEs in the fiscal risk statement, increasing the monitoring capacity of the Ministry of Finance by establishing a fiscal risk management unit, rationalizing the number of the state-owned enterprises, sectorizing them in line with international statistical standards, says the IMF.
Adding that notwithstanding the improved transparency and monitoring of SOEs in recent years, their financial performance has continued to be unsatisfactory. It is therefore clear that while being critical factors, better disclosure and monitoring cannot by themselves improve SOE performance to the extent necessary. Comprehensive legal and institutional reform is also required.
Drawing on established international models and good practice guidelines for the supervision of public corporations in a market economy, a reform strategy has been developed for those state-owned enterprises in Georgia that are or could become in the near future public corporations.
Yes, the Ministry of Finance has identified these SOEs on the basis of the international standards for defining a public corporation, for instance, an SOE that operates on an essentially commercial basis. The strategy has 5 independent pillars: commercial objectives, corporate governance, ownership policy, performance framework, and competitive neutrality.
The key provisions under each pillar are as follows. Commercial objectives. The primary objective of the public corporation should be to operate commercially. Corporate governance. Public corporations will be required to apply good international corporate governance practices. No politicians or civil servants would be permitted to serve on public corporation boards. Ownership policy statement is to be developed and published by the central government and each local government that has responsibility for supervising public corporations.
Performance framework. Each year, the public corporations will be required to develop a statement of corporate intent, defining the financial and non-financial objectives to be achieved within the specified risk thresholds. This will be submitted to the Ministry of Finance or local government finance department and Parliament and used to hold the public corporation supervisory boards accountable. Competitive neutrality. Public corporations will be required to operate on a competitively neutral basis. They should not enjoy any competitive advantages or face competitive disadvantages as a result of their ownership or control by the central or local government. Specifically, public corporations will be prohibited from undertaking public policy activities that may negatively impact on their finances, quasi-fiscal activities, unless explicitly mandated and fully compensated for doing so.
The strategy makes provision for the responsibility for exercising the shareholders' functions of public corporations to be centralized under the Ministry of Finance. This is in line with international good practice, as it would ensure a clear separation between the state shareholder and policymaking functions as per the OECD's recommendations.
Correct, David. However, in order to comply with the European Union Unbundling Directive, the Ministry of Finance will be the ownership entity for the state-owned electricity transmission company, whereas the Ministry of Economy will be the ownership entity for the electricity generation companies.
Nevertheless, in order to reduce the impact of the Ministry of Economy's conflict of interest between its ownership entity role and its policy role, additional measures will be taken to separate these roles within the ministry.
The strategy provides that a framework of public corporations law be put in place that will provide a clear statutory foundation for the implementation of the principles and procedures set out in the strategy. It will also provide for reporting and disclosure requirements by both public corporations and their ownership entities to be brought in line with international good practice.
The strategy will be used to initiate a process of wider discussion in Georgia that would assist the government to decide on how best to implement the strategy. The interdependencies between the 5 pillars will require careful design and implementation of the reform. Implementation will be informed by pilots to be conducted in a few selected public corporations.
David, we can tell now our viewers and followers that the IMF is ready to answer our questions after the holidays. Meanwhile, Georgia and Turkey have expanded the scope of the free trade agreement between the two countries. The Turkish deputy minister who is visiting Georgia held meetings at the Ministry of Economy. Together with my Turkish counterpart, we have taken an important step towards strengthening and developing trade relations between Georgia and the Republic of Turkey, said Georgian Deputy Minister Gennady Arveladze. He explains that according to the negotiations, new export-oriented agro products will be given in the free trade agreement. For example, Georgian honey is going to be sold in the Turkish market without any tariff barrier.
We had a good discussion today with the Minister of Economy, and then also we are trying to include more agriculture products in the agreement, since there are kind of some agriculture products, but it's not satisfactory for both sides. And also we like to have a balanced trade, as Georgia's side also underlined this. We are trying to close the gap between our trade, but still our main idea is to expand this trade to 3 billion, which is a target for our instructed by our president.
how can Georgian businesses expand their exports to the Turkish market, especially after this new chapter between trade relations of the two countries? This was the questions that our reporter Tamta Jijavadze asked to the ambassador to Georgia and Turkish Deputy Minister of Trade as well, so Georgian entrepreneurs have a chance to take some advice.
My idea for the Georgian exporters, first, I would say do a market research. If you try to sell what is amply being produced in Turkey, it will be hard. So selling tomatoes to Turkey might be hard, but selling dried, for instance, fruits, we don't have feikhua. Well, okay, to give you some ideas, or some juices we may not have, some concentrates we may not have, or there is still the raw materials that the Turkish producers may be buying from different countries, but then they may exist here. So market research, a good market research for the Turkish market is what the Georgian producers and exporters would need. But also I think we can help as Turkey, because we've been exporting for now some decades, and I think we should share this experience with the exporters, not only to Turkey. We can export things together to other markets.
When we talk about the trade imbalance between two countries, we should take into consideration that Turkish exports to the world is 220, while the exports of Georgia is now, I think, around maybe around 7 or billion something. So, and this year I'm very pleased to see that the growth in the production here is increasing. At the end of the year, I think Georgia is going to see around 9% of growth.
Well then, the Turkish Deputy Minister of Trade assesses Georgian potential as a transit country, especially in the pandemic. He says that Turkey has already benefited last year from Georgia's transit hub, while other countries' borders were closed. Mustafa Tusku also pointed out the importance of the Baku-Tbilisi-Karsi railroad.
Georgia is a perfect country for us to transit to other countries, especially to the third countries, like in Central Asia countries. Especially last year we have used this lane very often, since some countries are closing their borders because of COVID. We are trying to improve the railway system in our side, and we like to also update and align our railway systems. So we think that railways these roads can be much more usable, since our exports now this year is going to be more than 220 billion US dollars.
There is another interesting topic from this interview with the Turkish Deputy Minister of Trade. He's talking about challenges that Turkish companies face in Georgia. For instance, according to him, the predictability sometimes isn't clear in a Georgian business environment.
We can say that the predictability sometimes is not clear. So for this, but we have good dialogue with the Georgian authorities, and they are helpful to us. We think there are a large potential, especially in energy, in hydroelectricity. We think that we can do better than this. So we like to see much more invitation to the current tenders, and also we like to see the current predictability continue in the near future.
When we're talking about the challenges in our country's business environment, we should remind our viewers and followers about the Namahan hydropower plant. Of course, this project belongs to the Turkish company Enga, but as you know, investor terminated agreement with the government of Georgia due to force majeure and breach of contract. As a result, an $800 million hydropower plant would not be built. It became known from the announcement published by the parent company of Enka Renewables on the Istanbul Stock Exchange. 3 months later, we still do not know, has the investor already left the project officially or not? We can listen to what the Turkish ambassador to Georgia answered about this.
I think we all have lessons to learn about the Namakhvani episode, and I hope the company and the government will be able to reach an agreement. But again, they're talking, it's their issue, but the lesson I learned from there on my behalf is that we have to work actively on public information to fight this fake news, dissemination of propaganda and all that. And I think you would agree with me that obviously there was not going to be a tsunami that will swallow Kutaisi had the Namahan had been built.
While there are some issues connected to the energy sector, there are many success stories between Georgian and Turkish business relations. For instance, Turkish beer producers are going to increase their production lines in Georgia. General Manager FS Georgia is talking about the company's plans and challenges that the beer industry faces in our country.
We want to expand our export operations, so we are investing into new lines to be able to match with the demand. So this is our primary priority. The biggest challenge you asked was COGS increase. So the costs are increasing, so therefore the prices are under pressure. You can see it from the inflation of the country, and we are trying to keep it under pressure as much as we can as the sector. But it is a challenge going forward for the country. We are trying to increase our prices below inflation so that we don't support the inflation level.
Talking of business, David, let us then share some more business news from our weekly bulletin.
Marneuli has an increase in sales of fruit jams during the winter season. Banu Tsukilashvili, director of Marneuli, declares that the company's sales are up by 20%. He explains that demand on jams always increases for the new year. According to the director of the company, Marneuli is successfully operating amid the pandemic, and they managed to keep the prices at the same level despite the growing expenditures on the raw materials. Marneuli produced about 240,000 pieces of fruit jams packed in a glass bottle in 2021. Lapota Spa Resort is expanding with an investment of $6 million. Georgi Kevanishvili, general director of the company, told Business Morning that another 84-room hotel will be opened at the territory of the hotel complex by the summer of 2023. The new building will include conference halls, aquapark, jazz club, brewery, and 2 indoor tennis courts. Implementation of the new project will begin from the next spring. Today, Lapota employs 350 citizens. 90% of the employees are locals. The new project will allow to employ an additional 100 persons. Hualing Group plans to build a school and a kindergarten on the territory of Tbilisi Sea next to the Hotel Hualing Preference. As Hualing Group told BMG, the primary and secondary schools and kindergarten will be located on the area of 20,000 square meters, on which the company intends to spend $50 million. At this stage, the design of the building is being worked on. Hualing will submit the relevant project for the construction permit to Tbilisi City Hall in early 2022. The company also considers construction of residential complex with underground parking near the school. Company Kula announces to increase the product price from January 2022. According to Vano Goglica, general director of Kula, they are obliged to increase product price due to the utility tariff growth. He says they don't plan to change the pricing policy before the new year. Company Kula cannot say how much their products will get expensive at this stage. The company will set a new pricing policy after summarizing expenditures in January. Hypermarket Domino opens a new branch in Diromi with investment of 50 million GLR. As the company declares, customers will be able to purchase more than 50,000 types of products in one space. The new branch will be located on the area of 14,000 square meters. The new branch will employ about 400 people. Hypermarket Domino is operating on the market since 2015 and combines not only building materials but also products for home. The company still plans to expand hypermarket chain further in the future. Chateau Winery will arrange the first so-called pop-up space in Germany. Anna Mirianashvili, commercial director of Chateau Winery, told BMG that after Germany, the company will open another pop-up space in the USA. Winery Chateau has entered 5 new markets in 2021 and started distribution throughout Europe. However, the company plans to use the local market more vigorously because at this moment 90% of the company's wine is exported. Winery Chateau annually produces 500,000 bottles of wine. Lapota Spa Resort has its own solar power plant, reads the official Facebook page of the company. According to the company, the solar power plant generates 500 kilowatts of electricity. The so-called green energy will reduce consumed electricity by Lapota Spa Resort by 20%. Georgi Kevanishvili, General Director of Lapota Spa Resort, declares that the investment value of the solar power plant project is $320,000 USD. As he explains, the company will be able to save over 200,000 GLR on the utility expenditures within a year. Lapota Spa Resort will use the saved money on the leasing fee as the solar power plant project is supported by TBC Leasing. Chocolate producing company Blowbone plans to establish an academy where they will learn making of homemade chocolate, as Tina Balanchiwadze, co-founder of Blowbone, told PMG. The company is considering to add a whiskey line to the production. The company Blowbone is operating on the market for 3 months and produces high-quality chocolate for premium segment. Blowbone buys the necessary raw materials in America and Switzerland. Blowbone chocolate is sold at Radisson, Marriott and Chateau Winery hotels. Now the company holds negotiations and Blowbone products will appear in more facilities soon. Georgian National Lottery suffered a loss of 10.7 million GLR in 2020. The company's financial report reads, according to the document, the company's total revenue was 29 million GLR from all types of games, of which 16.11 million GLR was returned to the customers in the form of awards. Namely, the company's net income from games was 12.86 million GLR. The company finished 2019 with a loss as well. Then the loss amounted to 6.2 million GLR.
Alhambra is a company that makes beautiful bracelets in cooperation with Rusudan Petveashvili, a prominent Georgian painter since 2019. We will show you what's made in Georgia on the example of the company playing creativity with ropes and enamel.
I am Irina Georgiadze, the founder of the brand Alhambra. It was fashionable to use ropes as an accessory. This is where the idea was born, somewhere in 2016, and that's when we appeared on the market for the first time. We gathered some friends and together we painted enamel. We have given a new look to Georgian traditional enamel. We took an ornament from the fabric of Georgian kings, which we then revived in enamel. Our initial investment was almost a funny amount. We had a total of 400 lari, and with this amount we decided to do business. We were not planning on having such a big business. We did what we wanted to do, and then when people liked it, we realized that it had to become a business. When we first started, we called this company Alhambra Bracelet. Then we removed the bracelet component because we realized we weren't going to produce just bracelets, and we could have gone further. Our products include rings, earrings, and other types of jewelry. We use silver, enamel, diamonds, and if a customer orders it, gold. We have been cooperating with Rusudan Petveashvili since 2019. She created a sketch for us, which we then transferred to enamel. No jewelry in collaboration with Rusudan has been made before. We have a shop stand, which is located at Javjavadze Street 37. We also have online sales on Facebook, Instagram, and our website. Our customer demographic ranges from teenagers to 60-year-olds and even probably older people. Our product prices starts from 50 lari and goes up to 300 lari. We collaborate with various companies. New Year's is an important period for us. Since we produce accessories, everyone uses our products as gifts. We work closely with one of the companies that worked on the Georgian painter Pirosmani theme. Working on this theme turned out to be very interesting for us. We made bookmarks, mints, shirts, bracelets, and earrings. Together with one young designer, we are creating a new piece of jewelry, the sketches of which we have prepared in silver. The final pieces will be done by spring. We have buyers who represent our jewelry in Italy, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine.
Well done, Alhambra. Let us now turn to businesses that could well be open for investment. If rehabilitated, these resorts could have a powerful impact on Georgia's wellness, tourism attractiveness on the one hand and general economic growth on the other. What do we see instead? Our reporters Anuga Jokadze and Nini Longurashvili will take you to Skuri and Menji.
Whether perched atop a mountain or put within a city, abandoned resorts have a spooky allure. Rooms where pampered guests rested now are full of dirt and grime. The buildings are almost destroyed and the nature creeps in to claim the remains. Though such resorts no longer attract crowds seeking spa treatments and leisure, still maintain their air of solitude and serenity. The Checkpoints has got interested in the fate of two astonishing abandoned resorts in Georgia. These are Menji and Skuri resorts. Both of them are located in Samegrel region. Famous venues widely known for their curing mineral water became popular from the 30s of the previous century, and early as 1940 Menji hosted 10,000 visitors. When it opened, Menji Spa Resort was a destination by Eastern European standards and considered as one of the best spa vacation spots in Georgia. However, this golden age did not last forever. When war broke out in Georgia in the 1990s, the region became less attractive to foreign tourists. The hotel is abandoned for years and still remains in that way today, but the interest towards the unique spa resort is not down. 7 years ago, Chinese investors were visiting the resort. The government of Georgia even signed a memorandum with them. They plan to invest $200 million and employ over 1,000 persons. Finally, the project failed and the investors vanished. The government of Georgia started to work on attraction of a new investor for the spa resort and listed it at the auction within the project frame of the 100 investment offers for business. Initial price for the resort, locating on 180,000 square meters, was set at 2.6 million GLR, but the state could not sell it and the auction failed. The government of Georgia held another auction with reduced price in summer, which cost totaled to 1.7 million GLR, but the fact did not raise the interest of the investor either. The state announced the third auction with the same condition a few weeks ago, and we deeply hope that this auction will be finished in favor of Menji Spa Resort. The second resort, Skuri, is located in Tsalenjiha municipality, 450 to 500 meters above the sea level. It's a balneoclimatic resort with a humid subtropical climate. The main healing factor for Skuri is mineral water. Surrounded by mountains hidden in the greenery, it always attracted many tourists. Now abandoned for a decade, the building of Skuri Spa Resort still bears the furnishings and fixtures of a hotel preparing to receive its first guests. The locals say that in old Skuri there used to be few problems and less sought here. Now the reality has changed. Today, Resort Skuri is facing such challenges as lack of water, transport and road.
There used to be a lemonade factory here. People were employed. There was a patriot camp. We all worked. Now we do not have water. There is neither road nor transport. And the representatives of the government have visited us and promised to solve the problems, but the dream remains as a dream.
There are only 23 families living in Skuri Gorge today, and their main concern is to solve everyday problems for which they have to walk several kilometers every day. In addition to everyday issues, locals also want to revive the resort's tourist potential, as they say the pandemic further emptied Skuri Resort. Visitors are rarely received. The youth gathering place Patriot Camp turned out unsuccessful, and today the infrastructure for the camp is abandoned as well. Surrealistic environment may be the main criteria for which the investors are interested in Skuri, although the desire has never followed by a plan or result. New life in Skuri should have started in 2012 when the first hotel was built after a long pause at the resort, although the lack of infrastructure soon extinguished the enthusiasm of investors, hopefully temporarily.
Time for Guillaume Muller to join the scene. He will be telling us about Schulturbo, which is a renowned resort. The resort's focus is on balneotherapy for circulatory, nervous or skin disease, but since the 1970s, its repertoire has included speleotherapy, in which the cool, dust-free environment of local caves is said to benefit pulmonary diseases.
This is a very interesting topic right now, David, since the Minister of Infrastructure and Regional Development, Irakli Karseladze, has told us that Schulturbo development strategy envisions selling some property to private investors.
Let us first see what Gömuller has envisioned. Here is his story on one of the mysterious places in Georgia, Schulturbo.
Moge Salme Bitruelas. Today I'm bringing you to Schulturbo in West Georgia. This place, full of history, is well known for its beneficial natural water. Joseph Stalin had even made it a holiday resort for his soldiers on leave during the Soviet time. This mysterious place goes back much longer, and although some sanatoriums have fallen into disuse over the years, plans to make Schulturbo once again a flagship tourist attraction in Georgia are on the wheels.
The main distinguishing feature of Schulturbo is its thermal water, which is healing for the human body. That is why a number of sanatorium complexes were built during the Soviet era, and Schulturbo became balneological resort of that period, when a number of trains were arriving from Moscow and there were direct flights. There were direct traffic to Moscow, and as my grandmother says, it was full. You could not throw a needle in that park area. So many tourists were coming at that time. Schulturbo also has the largest park, one of the largest in Europe. 5 kilometers is within a radius. Features of Schulturbo is that it is a green city and is very good for recreation. We are now at Sanatorium Medea, which is one of the most popular sanatoriums in Schulturbo due to its architecture. Important days are celebrated and taken here today. In past, this place was full of tourists. Because of that, here many tourists cannot come today. It is necessary to give Schulturbo another load beside the balneological resort. Sanatoriums will be given the following loads: youth centers and so on. These are sports centers. In addition, Schulturbo does not have a city center, which according to the new plan will be added to the Schulturbo market area. In addition, Schulturbo will have a number of recreational areas, golf, various playgrounds.
Among the various novelties in tourism, what some hotels have understood is the reception of pets. This concept of pets-friendly accommodations, becoming more and more fancy all around the world, is starting to be implemented in Georgia. We're gonna meet together with Folly, a young dog discovering those accommodations throughout the country. This adorable show even has its own Instagram page, Folly Traveler. The goal for its owner, Tako Kamkamidze, is to highlight the pet-friendly accommodations present in Georgia. Destination of this week, Legend Spa Resort in Schulturbo.
Folly is a pandemic dog. We brought it during the pandemic and we have been together for 11 months. He turned 1 year a month ago. Due to this pandemic, because everything was functioning remotely, we had been together for 24 hours, which led to more attitudes between us. Imagine 24 hours from morning till evening, we did everything together. When I was leaving the house, I had more problems than other dogs brought in during the non-pandemic period. Because when a dog gets used to being with you from morning till evening, then even leaving for an hour is a trauma and stress for it. Consequently, it was very difficult for me to be with Folly for 24 hours. Doing an Instagram page was random. I was not expecting it, and I had no preconceived notions, no intentions about this. During my vacation, when I took a 2-week vacation, I decided it for myself and not for Folly. But we had to go together because I had problems about going out. I couldn't leave him for 1 or 2 hours. Imagine that I leave my dog not to see him during 2 weeks. Accordingly, this my vacation was planned with Folly. Therefore, these 2 weeks have been very difficult for me because when you call the hotel, you find out what is important to you, what you want, breakfast, visuals, view, where is the hotel area, and when it comes to finding a hotel for your dog, there are many other things to consider. During the summer, if the room has a balcony, because dogs love to sleep on the balcony. especially the folly, which has such a big fur. When I gained this experience, I arrived in Tbilisi and I had a lot of photos. I could not post photos on Instagram during the trip. I was posting stories on my Instagram, which received a great response from my friends. I was asked and they were surprised that such a big dog could be found in this hotel. They discovered many new details that they didn't know before. At this level of a small idea, we can say that it emerged. But since I had so many photos to post on Instagram, I loved posting photos on Instagram. There is one photo of Folly that has been posted on his Instagram when I was drinking coffee in the morning and I thought Traveler Folly, because Folly was on a trip for the first time and we were together for 2 weeks. I thought I have to put the photos and let's put these photos on the Folly's page. This is how Folly's Instagram was created during the morning coffee without any extra planning. I just made a page where I would post photos of Folly traveling. At first it was very surprising to me and I didn't expect such a response. There was a lot of warmth from the people and a lot of questions about the trip. Therefore, this Instagram was organized based on the request of the people. When the questions came, which hotel do you recommend? Does it add value to the dog? Are dogs allowed in this hotel breakfast area? Based on these questions, we started posting these videos. The first trip was planned like this. We wrote on Instagram where do they recommend to go and which hotel, and the story had very great response. We went to the hotel which was chosen by the majority of votes, and so the Instagram page was developed like that. We can't say there are no pet-friendly spaces, but I wish there were more, because there are beautiful places where it is physically impossible to find a pet-friendly hotel and relax with a dog. I think that our site is already very useful for dog owners, because except traveling, which raises many questions, I try my best to answer everyone and provide useful information. In addition, we have additional questions on various issues. For example, they saw a comb, necklace, food, or anything that Folly uses on a daily basis in any of the videos. A lot of questions come up about it. Overall, it turns out that from our site, dog owners can get much needed and a lot of information for travel about pet-friendly spaces. Also, they can get information on other issues related to how to care for a dog and what is best for this category of dog. For example, Folly is white and allergic. Owners of allergic dogs write us very often and ask for an advice.
The tourism industry is trying by all time by implementing new ideas and initiatives. Thanks to that, the tourism is slowly coming back in Georgia with the hope of a sunnier horizon in 2022.
As a kind of summary of 2021 business-wise, David, 30.3% of surveyed companies stated that the number of employees increased in quarter third of 2021 compared to the second quarter of the same year. For the majority of respondents, the number of employees was unchanged, while 3.7% reported a decrease, according to the report on business climate published by BAG Index.
Across all sectors covered, the manufacturing sector was one with the largest share of the surveyed companies, claiming that the number of employees had increased in the third quarter of this year compared to second quarter of 2021. This could be due to the rise in demand for production experienced by the majority of companies.
The report also tells us that 21% roughly of the surveyed companies stated that in the fourth quarter of 2021 compared to the third quarter of the same year, the number of employees increased, while 3.7% recorded a decrease. The majority of companies stated that their number of employees had not changed. A significant share of respondents in the construction and manufacturing sector stated that the number of employees had increased in fourth quarter of 2021 compared to the third quarter of the same year. This could be due to rising sales in both sectors that we can see in quarter four of 2020.
25% of the companies expect that in the first quarter of the next year the number of employees will increase, while 3.7% expect a decline. The majority of companies don't expect a change in the number of their employees in this period. The most optimistic outlook regarding employment was found in the construction sector. 50% of the respondents in the construction sector stated that they expect an increase in the number of employees in the first quarter 2022. This could be explained by the optimistic outlook regarding sales in the sector.
To sum up, David, it could be argued that the construction sector has been experiencing positive dynamics regarding employment size in first quarter of 2021. In the same quarter, only 13% of surveyed companies recorded an increase in their number of employees, while in fourth quarter of the same year, this indicator stood at 50%, and a similar rate is expected in the first quarter of 2022 already. In the manufacturing and service sectors, like in the construction sector, the share of companies that have recorded an increase in their number of employees has been rising since first quarter of 2021. However, in fourth quarter of this year compared to the previous quarter, the relevant indicators decreased by 7 and 25 percentage points respectively. It is expected that in the first quarter of 2022, fewer companies will increase the number of employees. In the trade sector, the share of companies to record an increase in number of employees during 2021 was stable, unlike other sectors.
Well, such was the last program of the year. We will meet you in 2022 already. Till then.
Yes, till then, but we would recommend checking bm.g and forbes.g despite holidays as well from time to time. Happy 2022.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.